professional associations play an integral part in delivering specific experience-based support to local government leaders in a way that can be hard to come by elsewhere. This month, ICMA is recognizing the impact that those professional associations make on supporting the local government leaders who continue to make this profession great. Joining us for today's Member Spotlight is Sarah Brown, Treasurer of St. Paul, Minnesota, and member of the Government Finance Officers Association. Thanks so much for joining us today, Sarah.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Can you share what the highlight of your career has been thus far?
One of the biggest highlights for me was actually being appointed to one of GFOA's national committees while I was still a Treasury analyst. If you look online for people who are on those committees, they're typically managers and directors. And I was actually appointed when I was just a Treasury analyst. And so I was very proud of that moment. I think being recognized for my competence before actually having the title. And I actually give GFOA a lot of credit for that, for bringing in somebody younger and maybe without the title or recognition that was deserved at the time.
Those stepping stones are so important. A lot of people may see their career as a ladder and that ultimate position as the top, but it's so important to recognize the important positions that you get in the middle. And I'm glad you've seen the value in that, and even happier that GFOA was able to put that trust in you as well. And on the other hand, can you describe a challenge you faced in your career and how you were able to overcome it?
Yeah, that was actually very recently. So for reference, I became treasurer for the city of St. Paul just this past July 2022. So I've really only been in the role for a bit over 6 months now. And stepping into the role, we had a lot of turnover, which I'm sure a lot of people have experienced the staffing challenges. As a new manager coming in, a manager who doesn't have the cash background, but the debt background, it was exceptionally challenging bringing on new staff, as well as backfilling my old position and then training them in a field that I wasn't as comfortable with. The other thing I inherited was that we had a bit of a backlog at the time. And so just within the last 6 months being on the job, it was hiring roughly 4 new individuals, getting them all trained and staffed up, and then also addressing the backlog. And I guess I'm happy to announce that, we're only about a month and a half behind, which is pretty par for the course, I think. And yeah, I think now I'm definitely kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm really excited for the staff that were brought on, and also happy for the transitions for the people that did move on.
Wow, that sounds like quite the undertaking.
Yeah.
especially in that new position. You really went through the ringer from day one, it sounds like, but sounds like it's also going to be all up from here, and even better that you were able to kind of build your own team. You talked earlier about GFOA, so let's get further into that. Today, we're specifically highlighting the Government Finance Officers Association, better known as GFOA, which serves public sector finance officials who are deeply involved in planning, financing, and implementing thousands of governmental operations in each of their jurisdictions. GFOA's mission is specifically to advance excellence in public finance. Sarah, given your active membership at GFOA, what tools and resources have they provided that you've found most helpful in your own work?
Great question. And I think GFOA is a wonderful resource, as well as ICMA, for anybody in the government profession. I'll highlight just a few. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about best practices, obviously, especially for anybody starting out in your career. It's a great place to start and really just get like a great kind of entry level education on a variety of topics are covered, from accounting to debt management to capital planning and budgeting. Conferences are another item I'd like to highlight. So there's obviously always the annual GFOA conference, which is one of the largest conferences I think I've ever been to in kind of the financial field. It's great for a variety of reasons. One, not only the educational value, but also the networking aspect. Outside of the committees, which I mentioned, the Economic and Capital Planning Committee that I'm on for GFOA, there's also a variety of affinity groups. So as a whole, attending conferences like this or attending the affinity group meetings is just a great opportunity to meet other people in your field. And then when you do have these challenging questions, being able to pick up the phone and call a friend or somebody you've met who might be going through a similar issue with their jurisdiction, it's just completely invaluable.
That's great, and so important to have such a sounding board from GFOA and such resources to help give you that more experience-based support that you need in your role. And you definitely touched on this in that answer, but do you have any additional pieces of advice for those on the financial track who are looking to pursue or further their career in local government?
I think the best thing I could say is find a mentor or maybe mentors. So I call her my mentor for life. She was actually the person who first brought me into public finance. She was my first boss with Minnesota Management and Budget. And to this day, I call her all the time. I even called her in preparation for this conversation. Just somebody to give you professional advice, life advice, all of the above. But then there was also times where, as a woman of color, I was really looking for somebody who looked like me and walked in my shoes, and reached out to a woman out in San Diego who luckily took my phone call and was able to answer a lot of my questions about public finance and just being a woman of color in the field as well. So I guess I can't reiterate enough, find a mentor. They're great people to have on your side.
That's great. It's so nice to hear that you've found that supportive role and in a mentor. I know here at ICMA, we really value highly mentorship. So in coaching. So that's so important and a best piece of advice I think you could have given. And Sarah, you've had active memberships in both GFOA and ICMA throughout your career. What added value have you experienced from being involved in both of these associations?
I think ICMA and GFOA are similar and different in very good ways. But there are things that they both offer, and collectively, they both offer outstanding educational webinars as well as conferences. ICMA also has an annual conference. I'll be attending it for the first time this fall, and I'm very much looking forward to that. They also, via these conferences and other outings, offer exceptional networking opportunities, leadership cohorts or committees. One of the committees I'm on specifically with ICMA, and it was actually my entrance to ICMA, is the Leadership Institute on Race, Equity, and Inclusion. And I actually wouldn't even be in that committee had GFOA not said, hey, you should take a look at this, and we'd like to almost sponsor you to be on it. And so I really value the partnerships between ICMA and GFOA. I think that's absolutely outstanding, and I hope to see more of that in the future. So I think both are exceptional, lots of overlap in some regards, but also subtle differences. And I think both have been an extreme value add for my professional career.
That's great. I'm glad you've been able to see the professional benefits from both ICMA and GFOA. And it sounds like you're the platinum standard of a member for both with your involvement and really taking advantage. So that's great to see, and it's great to hear. You know what, Sarah, it's been a pleasure getting to hear more about your experiences, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share with us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you. For more information on becoming a member of GFOA and ICMA, you can visit ICMA's Become a Member page and GFOA's Join page. I'll have those both linked in the description below, and to view more member spotlights, be sure to subscribe to our channel.